Yeah, welcome to the 1 second. Dude, I always do this. Okay,
There's a lot of
welcome.
things you always do.
There are a lot of things that I always do, man. But welcome to the 118th episode of Wonky Weekly Alpha. Dude, something I was thinking about, we got to pivot this from the weekends. Like a Thursday or Wednesday type of schedule would be just elite. You know what I mean? Like
I
middle
mean,
of the
whatever
week.
day that I make time. So
You do.
whatever
You kill it.
whatever day that ends up being the best for you to show up, I say we go with that one.
It's true. This is my fault, not Roosters. 110%. But we're here. We're back one way or the other. It was an interesting weekend at Consensus. And I say that from the perspective that I don't know, man. I think I got myself overly hungover a couple different times and slept like half the day away. And then by the point that I actually was supposed to do anything, I was up there. My mom lives not too far away from that area now. So went up and surprised her for her birthday. Next thing you know, it's like the conference was gone. But I mean, hey, it was a good weekend, one way or the other. Austin's a good time. It always has me feeling about like I am right now, coming back on the other side of it. But we're alive and we're moving forward from there. And that's what we love to see. So how was your weekend, man?
Um, I guess it is Monday. All the days really blur in between at this point. Um, it's been going well, especially in you know not having to actively trade right now. As I was saying last spaces, the Beavers were going live. They are exceeding my current expectations, and I am having a very enjoyable time not making any trades pretty much right now and watching my Beavers just cook hourly.
So yeah, that was one of the things we were going to follow up about. So they were launching their own coin, right?
Their whole
And
ecosystem.
you
Yeah.
described it kind of like as an L1 in a sense,
So
which
it's
I want you to elaborate on that. Like, is it, L1, L2? Like, what exactly is it the degen style, quote unquote, L3? Um,
Let me see if I can get the more intelligent description brought up here, because to answer that 100% honestly, I'm not exactly sure. It's on Beam, right? Uh,
so if it's on
and
Beam would be closer to an L1. And,
right,
like, that's the gray area of AVAX subnets. There are a lot of people, you just call them L1s. And I think there are some, definitions of L1s that would fit better, but at the same sense, like that's why AVAX is so weird, man. It's like an L1, but it's also kind of more similar to an L0 when you really think about it. So if it's built on Beam, then, realistically, the closest it could be is an L2, depending on what its functionality and what it's really doing is.
right. And so to answer that, I'm also trying to pull up the more intelligent description of it, because shout out to Future Well. I had to do my pre-show bong rips, so bringing that to the forefront of my brain and all the technicalities is a little bit difficult at this moment. Um, but essentially, they're trying to be the premier gaming subnet of all of Web3, right? Like the entire crypto space. So it's Seed and Network. They are co-owners of Rainy Studios with Ice Bags, right, which has their game Rainy the Lords of Light, which is play to earn on Epic Games, downloadable to your computer or Android, and I think iOS is shipping very soon. And then they also own Rocket Monsters, which is in beta testing right now, Eternal Forest. Um, they've just did some type of partnership with the Plushies recently. I'm not exactly too sure what that entails, but that's all going to be, it's all centered around the Seed and ecosystem, which again, they're trying to be the premier gaming subnet. And so the beavers are keystone nodes, which have a vested amount of their token CDN that gets unvested hourly. And that rate is determined by the rarity of the body type. So different beavers have different efficiencies. And then they also share 10% of each block rewards, right? And then that's where the production nodes come in, which you can mint by escrowing 500 CDN, which you can either just straight up buy. You don't need to own a beaver, or you can, wait for your beavers to mine 500 and then escrow that. And then the production nodes get 90% of the block rewards,
And
which
quick
is
pause while you're doing this. Can you pin anything up here while you're talking about it as well,
actually,
just in
yeah,
case? Just
I
in
can.
case anybody else wants like either a visual or to follow along afterward, do a little bit of deeper digging.
I can. Also, question sidebar: is it just me, or is the Twitter search function pretty much not usable anymore? Like, if you're trying to search someone or tag someone, if I can never find who I'm actually trying to tag until I end up spelling out their whole name. It'll recommend me 20 million people who I don't follow and I've never seen before, while I'm trying to find things. But I'm not sure if that's just me.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like Twitter just has a way of being weird about really obscure things when it comes to either tagging or searching in general. A lot of the different times, like I feel like everybody has a different random I don't I was gonna call it subquests, like a different random shit that they deal with on a daily basis that somebody else doesn't necessarily encounter. But like, and a lot of these things too are also widespread, but everybody has different ways of going around figuring out whatever the workaround for that shit is. But nah man, it's always weird whenever it comes to that type of stuff.
Um,
Um
but yeah, and then so essentially, at this time, while you're mining CDN, you're also mining what they have 25 million RST that's in the pool to be mined over the next 12 months, and also currently live 5 million Beam that's in the pool, that's currently being mined over the next 6 months. And then as they're being released, the Rocket Monsters token, Eternal Forest token, um, and plus other tokens. So for me, it's a gaming play, a node running play that you don't need any hardware for. They take care of all of that in house. You just pay a $5 a month per fee per beaver and $15 a month per production node. And it's really simple. You just a few clicks and you can turn everything on auto. And yeah, it's a passive income, yield and liquidity, node running gaming play for me, and it's been severely outperforming my expectations. CDN's trading at like $1.60 right now, which makes me or $1.73, which puts me at
so,
about $800 a day, that I'm being rewarded in just CDN. And my initial investment for Mint was 10 grand. So my ROI is like 2 weeks.
So I was going to say, let's see this right now. Am I reading the CDN is right now at FTV of 1.1. Had a huge surge right when it launched on the 29th, whenever it came out. Um, pretty healthy base range, healthy enough liquidity for the size that it is.
So
I
yeah,
feel like that's
has been provided at a dollar per CDN is what like the team has been initially providing the liquidity at. The reason for
Mhm.
the surge in the beginning is because as you know, production nodes get there's no pre-mine or anything. So right, everything started at the same time for everybody. Liquidity was very, very low in the beginning until the team, after 12 hours after launch, mined enough to start adding liquidity for it to be, you wouldn't have crazy slippage and, retardedly set up liquidity pools. So they started adding liquidity, about 12 hours after launch. But the reason for the spike is the production nodes got 90% of block rewards, right? So it's going to go down as time continues and more production nodes are minted. So that first mover advantage, people were paying, buying 500 CDN at $6 to $8 per token just to, get that first mover advantage on those production nodes and the rewards for those. Because I think at the time was like 50 to 60 CDM per hour. Um, so that they were crazy printing those first couple of days. And then, as expected, as more nodes were created, and, there are some pretty good sized whales in there who, ripped like 200K, 150,000 in mints, right? They have a pretty good first mover advantage as well. So probably securing initial um, or recouping a little bit of their initial, right, which is what I did too. I sold some at $6 to $8 instead of buying some for to get that first mover advantage on the production nodes because and I might have missed out a little bit. I'm not sure exactly how the math would have ended up working out. Um, but I figured probably it wouldn't be a bad idea to sell some at, $6 to $8. I think I averaged about six for the first day. And then I bought the lows. At like $1.50, I was buying some production nodes. So then, catching up on the rewards that I was missing. But yeah, dude, they've been cooking, and at these levels, my ROI is like 2 weeks, which is insane. And that's not, not including the value of the beavers themselves too, which I think uh, floor price I've 3x'd from mint cost. So it's been luckily a well-performing NFT in a sea of blood.
No, I love to hear it, man. Like that hybrid model is something that is, I think, you know, it, it's shown some strength recently, and it's been one of those weird things where I've really been, paying attention to it because for a long period of time, there were a lot of people, and I feel like the average sentiment was dropping any type of a token with any type of a project was just a net negative overall because it was kind of like a last breath for air. But I think that we have seen some innovative ways that people have been able to launch kind of these hybrid models, and some cool stuff has come from it.
No, yeah,
Um,
this dude, I met him in Pandemonium. He was original. The first place I met him was, the Panda Discord. But I ended up meeting him in person at Pandemonium. This this dude's a fucking gigabrain genius. Like someone I'm very comfortable parking capital in and investing in. He like when you hear him talk about it, and I could probably easily set up a week for him to come up on here and do a much better job of explaining everything than I can. Uh, but
yeah,
you
we'll
can
have to.
just hear when he speaks that how passionate this guy is, and that he knows exactly like he's thought everything through and knows what he's talking about.
We'll have to do it, man. Like the old summer spaces, like what we did with um, ponds and bags and some of them back in the day.
Yeah.
So I would definitely be down. Um, so pivoting, a couple side notes, like I was a little bit disappointed earlier. I didn't realize that I started farming pack like a day or two too late. so I missed so I missed out on that airdrop. And man, I looked at it. Had I literally started just 2 days before, the valuation of my points would have been about like 15 grand today, like
Wow.
somewhere in that range. So that
I would have
sucks.
thought Pack was. I mean, the reason I really didn't try farming it was it seemed diluted compared to how much people were talking about it on the timeline. It didn't feel like it would end up being worth it.
I so I had a couple guys that talked me through it a little bit. Like I was talking to Dees and he kind of explained to me the Ponzi a little bit and I was like, yeah, this is pretty simple. Um so just one of those things where I was like, yeah, like honestly, I like it. And like when you look at it from the perspective of there aren't really a lot of shit coins on blast, and it's still a potential farming play as far as I know the jackpot only lasts for about another month, but still another farming play there. I was like, yeah, like does look like a decent play. So, with a few tweets, it's all it took, bumped up to like top 10 in points. And I looked at, the people that had a similar point valuation on the leaderboard for me. And the average, between that range was, well, the people that had about half the points of me, I saw get about somewhere in the $8,000 to $12,000 range. So I was like, okay, conservatively doubling it, like less than doubling it. If I gotten that like 12 to 17, 18,000, probably would have been about it. But it's okay. It is what it is. Like, sad. Apparently, I'll be included in the next one. Still rugged by fantasy. I finally tweeted something out about that, uh, where dude, it's that one's sad. Like, I did not, and I tweeted this whenever I sent it out, that I did not give back 100% of my ETH just because of the charity side of it. I was like, okay, well, like one, cool. If I can recoup a similar valuation of ETH and still be able to like realize that myself, then yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And like I tweeted that out. I was like, I'll get the cards, I'll sell whatever cards that I need to be able to recoup up to that 6 ETH, and that's it. It's like 3 weeks later now. They still haven't sent them out to all the heroes that had like, the higher on the leaderboard. Um, but they had lower volumes, so less ETH, than a lot of like the really shitty ones that just have never tweeted but had a shit ton of cards in circulation because of that. So got a bunch of, ETH distributed. And now everybody's just kind of sitting here and it's like, well, I think that if I got everything right now, I could maybe get about 1.5 ETH out of it. So
I mean, I don't
yeah.
want to say I told you so, but
Hey, no, I know, but like Rooster, my deal was, did I not
I
tell
know
you
you
where I
you
thought it was
had
going?
yeah, you had positive RR. I am not faulting you
Like,
for participating at all. You should have, and it is
and
good that
I
you
even
did.
told everybody with this, right? Again, like I expected this to happen, right? Like that was a given with this. It happens with this shit. Is there a chance that it has another surge? Yeah, sure. Like there is. So, I haven't given out hope that when they eventually do give those cards, they'll be worth anything. But like at the same time, my math, when they say they're going to distribute something, it goes to expecting that they're gonna do what they say they're gonna do, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah,
maybe
that
not in the
is,
crypto space.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, okay, I expected especially that they were gonna do it whenever they actually distributed the ETH rewards to the other people, right? Like they weren't trying to short. So it just is what it is. It's one of those things you live and you learn. I'll just treat it as a liquidation. Like, it's fine. Shit happens. So I, like, couple things learned from that. Knowing my luck too, I'll be included in the season 6 of pack, and somehow it'll actually, I would almost prefer it to nuke instead of go up from here. I'll be pissed if it goes up, because if it goes up, then that means that I get a lot less pack. The valuation of it, you know, has less upside for sitting on it. But like the thing is though, right now there are just so many different farms that you can participate in. And what I realized, especially like with some of the, some of them, like the majority of the people that were up there at the top of the leaderboard for this pack one that got like a shit ton of rewards weren't big accounts. Like there were some big accounts, but like there were like, I'd say it was split about 50-50 in the top 100 for big and small ones. Like there are ways that some of these things that are out there right now are incentivizing participation and trying to even it out, um, to where, as long as you're just in on the ground floor, like what you're doing with the Beavers right now, there are ways that you can just stack and like kind of set yourself up for a run if something happens there.
Yeah. Um, it is also though kind of sickening the amount of dilution there is, especially with projects and farms out there, because we're we're not we're not getting many new buyers on our end with these farms, and so you're not getting any normie people that are getting on the blast. Like if you can get a normie on the blast, it's probably going to take you hours um, of step by step walkthrough, and then before you even get home after leaving their house, they're going to call you asking where all their money went because they probably got fished or rugged in that time. So you're not getting any new buyers from there. It's all the same money, and people, they will straight up just even if a project has potential, withdraw everything for the point somewhere else. I mean, you haven't, no one's even uttered the words friend tech in the past 2 weeks at this point, including myself. I mean, I never thought it was going to be, the next great tech or whatever. I did think it would
Well,
be
they were
slightly
kind of
more
idiots
respected than
looking
it
back
was.
on it. They
Yeah,
were
I mean, they are.
idiots.
No, and I'm not
Like
saying they're
the
not. I'm just
whole,
pointing to
I,
the.
I'm glad they did the experiment so we could see how it worked out with 100% community distribution immediately from something like that, where friend wasn't even a meme, it was just utility. And this goes back to the whole meme versus utility argument. Like they created, their utility was the exact same as what they already had, and they just tried to reinvent the wheel again, and it just didn't make sense. And then like showing zero confidence in it, saying, hey, we're gonna like pay people if you want to, help us migrate this off blast, and or not blast, off of base, just doesn't make sense. That's why, like initially, I was a little bit unsure how arena waiting to see, like how friend would go, and then doing like 10% vesting each month and like having to stay active to be able to actually vest those tokens would work out. But I actually think it has a better chance from a longer term perspective of working out because of the slower distribution. But again, it's one of those things you don't know. Like, I don't want to say going into this for anybody that has it, like, odds are with any new token that is being airdropped out there, you're going to have a period of bleeding, right? Like, eventually, though, what you're hoping is that like the demand catches up with the supply introduction, and that like, again, it just goes back to like what is incentivizing the user participation. People right now, it's like with friend tech, they've already received 100% of their airdrop, they're not getting another airdrop. Why are people going back? Right? Like, what has built the habit for people to go back? So that's part of the question with a lot of this stuff. Like, what is the next layer to it to be able to keep people coming back, like when the price isn't necessarily doing,
The way
the
you
up
can
only.
keep people coming back is you have a good product. Like that's the thing. You can't incentivize with farming. Like yes, it grasps it's farming is more of marketing for the project. Hoping to reward users for their participation. Right. That's on paper seems like a great idea. Reality is the people, your main farmers, right, are doing it strictly for profit. They don't care about your project at all. They're farming lots of points because they think that will be the highest reward, and they're going to pretty immediately, try and get as much out of that as they can as soon as they can. And then, yeah, it ends up being this cascade where then, like, oh well, now everybody's wrecked except for the people who, were farming it the hardest, right, and got their bag. And then now they're over here pumping and rotating to the next thing, i.e. fantasy top, farmed hard again for another 2 3 weeks, and then rewards started coming out, pulling their money, farming pack. Like it's an ever rotation of almost like extract maximum value, while putting on a mask at the same time, being like, oh, let's try these new things. Like the way you keep people there is you have a good product that people actually use, rather than buying the attention, because once you pay that back, it's gone.
Yeah, Pump.Fun doesn't have an official token yet, do they?
There's been so many different quote unquote official pump tokens.
No, but I mean,
um
like, actual Pump team has not dropped an official token yet, right?
Not that I know of. I know they've like done test tokens, so like the first ever token made on Pump.Fun, and people are like, "Oh, this is the Pump Fun token." Or
Well, I only ask that from the perspective, I'm like, man, I really need to get on there and just, trade on 10 different wallets just in case, like make a couple of trades. Because why would a platform that is the most popular currently creation website for, making shit coins not make their own shit coin at some point?
there's been like I said, a few quote unquote unofficial official Pump Fun shitters. I honestly like it's good tech, like being completely removing all feelings and emotions and just getting down to the tech about it. It is good tech. However, I do think Pump Fun is a huge tumor, and it makes me despise even Solana even more. And I think it might end up being a poison dagger for some part of Solana. I'm not saying it's going to kill Solana at all. Solana's getting into that edge of territory of it being too big to fail, which it's not there yet. Only ETH and Bitcoin are there, in my opinion. Um, but it's edging. But I do think more tokens have been, I think, created on Solana this in May than on Ethereum's entire history.
That's wild.
Yeah, say that again. There have been more tokens created on Solana in May than Ethereum since inception. Solana has a huge inflation problem, and like just imagine all the locked liquidity out there that these coins haven't traded, a dollar this month in activity, right? I couldn't even. There might be some Dune analytics about it. I don't know. I haven't looked for it, but I feel like it is massive amounts of just wasted and burnt liquidity that's just out there just from a 10-second hype wave. Um, it's I, not saying it's going to be the downfall of Solana, but I think it's going to end up doing more harm than good. Good in the short term, especially if you're early on the ones that run. You can buy 6% of a token on Pump.Fun for like 2 SOL if you get in early enough, and it could run, and that could be your make it trade. I'm not trying to fault anyone. I participate in that as well. I bought almost 100 tokens on Pump.Fun at this point, just because I like playing in the casino. Um, it is cancerous though. I feel dirty doing it, and 99 out of 10, 100 times it's a rug in the terms of all the socials are deleted and the dev sold their allocation. Not that they pulled liquidity because you can't do that. But yeah, I think it's going to end up doing more harm than good for Solana and Pump is. It's like it'll be
Yeah.
end up being infamous.
I mean, it already is a little bit, but yeah, like odds are with it, like anything else, there's going to become something that is bigger, better, easier, faster that comes along. People will get tired of this and they'll move on to the next narrative. Um, the funny thing is, I look at it from two perspectives. They could have like 6 months of just crazy, crazy insanity if they incentivize something with like farming. Maybe they have like a couple seasons on it, kind of like what Blast or Blur does. And maybe they could squeeze it out that way by just making it last for a while. But doing it like that, I almost wonder,
I don't think
I
they
guess,
need incentives, bro,
well,
because
I
I
was going to
think
say, I
there's over
almost,
2,000 tokens created on Pump Fun a day.
yeah, they're already making it, right? Like the flip side of what I was going to say is, you've then got Uniswap and you asked what makes people continue using a product after the airdrop. It's that they have a good product. So like Uniswap, people still use it because it's a good product, right? Like they don't use it because they got airdropped a token. That was a nice benefit, nice little stimulus, but it wasn't the reason why people used it in the first place.
No,
Also,
people
can I
use
just
Pump Fun
I
because it
just
costs 0.02 Sol to launch anything, and it takes about 15 seconds, and a dev can buy their own allocation and immediately dump on any bots or uh, buyers that want to buy into it.
Owen, what's up, man?
Hey guys. No, I just the reason I came up, I wanted to just respond to you, Rooster, because I take a little bit of a different view in the sense that like didn't we find out after the FTX collapse that like some obscene amount of Sol TVL was just like Fugazi like shitcoins leverage looped, like literally protocols that nobody used and like Fugazi tokens that have been inflated to massive valuations, and it was like basically one group behind it. Like Sol was the FTX SBF chain, so like I don't think seeing more adoption is like I don't think the potential PR hit that could come from people getting burned on this like ultimately matters as much as
I don't
adoption.
think he's talking about the PR hit as
No,
much as
I'm
he
not.
is
Yeah.
saying that there's so much liquidity that's like kind of been siphoned out from the average person, from the regular user, that would be able to go into a some type of more active or beneficial ecosystem that's kind of just being it's like stuck there.
Isn't that feel like late cycle stuff? So you think like Soul is sort of like in late cycle?
No, not necessarily late cycle at all. I'm just, uh, I mean, a few parts of liquidity suck, right? Burnout, and not necessarily a PR hit, but just pure inflation. Like, there's back when all this started, right? There were pretty much three leaders of the Solana meme coins, right? It really started with Bonk, right? Then it really started kicking up with With, and then shortly after was Popcat, right? And that's pretty much how we closed out 2023. Was there's really three semi leaders, right? And at this point, Bonk had barely broken a billion. Um, With had barely broke 200 million, and I think Popcat was at like 50, 60 million at this time. And those were your three largest and most attention grabbing meme coins on Solana. And fast forward a few months later, right? You have Iggy's ass going to 80 million within 48 hours. right? You have other top coins like Michi and then Harambe and literally 20 other tokens, right, that are, quote unquote, the next blue chip on Solana, right, that are reaching massive valuations. And then you have Pump Fund coming out now too, right? And then there's a lot of Pump Fund tokens reaching 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, right? And then new projects come out, new projects every single fucking day. 2,000 different coins are being launched on Solana, and everyone's trying to be the next whiff, right? Well, there's only end up going to be so much liquidity that people are buying into these coins, right? There's going to be a point where there's a burnout, and people are going to be like, holy shit, I have 800 different tokens of vaporware, and now they're all crashing.
Yeah, at some point, people want to remove their money from the casino. And when enough people start doing that, it causes prices to go down, which, like, because crypto is so reflexive, price go up means more price go up, price go down means more price go down.
So I guess more of what I'm saying is that I believe Pump Fund is more or less going to be a catalyst for that inevitability than something that could maybe sustain a longer run. I think Pump Fund will end up more of a catalyst for the decline rather than a sustainable project that is a little bit more healthy for the ecosystem. I guess if that makes more sense.
No, it does, man. I like, but the thing is, the argument for that comes down to everything, right? Like that's what a lot of people were saying in, say, for instance, like Art Blocks when they were doing their Dutch auctions at the top of the ETH NFT cycle, and like, was it at the top? Yeah, it was, but like, was it a blow off top? Not necessarily. It was more of like a rounded top for it. And you could kind of, I mean, right now, the way I look at it is, it just depends again on new entrants where we are. So it's really like, it's a difficult thing to say because it's like, yeah, if this is all that there is, and we don't get like that new wave of entrants from like Bitcoin making a new all time high, continuing to ascend, then yeah, like this is not sustainable. It won't be healthy. But if we do have that blow off top breakout from Bitcoin where it's in price discovery, I mean, it's going to take a while before we really see this have the effect that you're talking about. Now, could it lead to like a local top in the meantime? Yeah, sure. And I think in a way, even though we've seen Sol continue to, have a lot of activity, it still kind of has had a little bit of a local top relative to like where it was, right?
Yeah,
Versus
and I think it's
Bitcoin.
going to continue a little bit as well. You're already seeing a little bit of money rotating back to the ETH side, and a lot of ETH coins catching pretty good sized bids, while your comparative counterparts on the Solana chain are staying flat or taking a hit. Now, I'm not here to call any tops or anything. That's not what I'm trying to do. Just simply making an observation and inferences on my participation as well. And it already seems like it's because it's so easy for new stuff to get launched within a blink of an eye. People are seeming to get burned out a little bit quicker. Uh, it's to where it ends up not being too much fun anymore. But yeah, just like you said, yeah, if you see a blow off top, I mean, everything's going to be catching bids. Like I'm not calling any tops, especially this early in a bull cycle. Local, sure, maybe, but I'm not here to call any tops or FUD anybody's bags. I want everybody to make it. Um, yeah, just merely making an observation from my own participation in Pump Fund.
That's fair enough. Oh, and did you participate in any of the AVAX version of Pump Fun?
I tried it out. Yeah, why not? You're talking about Ignite that meme? or
Yeah, the one with Dom on it.
yeah, no, I bought Dom and was a bag holder on that joint. Unfortunately, but I think it's cool. There's just not really the volume there at the moment. Surprise, surprise. Uh, Also, Moonbags via, he launched this Bullet Exchange, which is like a hybrid DEX swap aggregator and 404 NFT marketplace. Um, but he like set up a launch pad for that as well. It's like a permissionless 404 launch pad. It's not really like pump fun, but it has like it has some novel stuff associated with it. So I mean, again, you have to imagine inflows into AVAX, excitement, volatility. But if you can imagine that, you can imagine these things being exciting. This stuff is cool. It's just like there aren't people using it.
Yeah, it is cool to have the product ready to go, if and when the traction does come, right? So, and I'll say this, I actually think they would benefit more from having an open points-based system for a creation of tokens and for participating and trading on that than something like Pump.Fun does. Because Pump.Fun, again, they have the, organic user base already there. But if you've got this other thing where you've got a live leaderboard and there are ways to earn points by just, creating and participating and taking your liquidity there, like might actually be worth, considering for somebody that's like a new upstart.
Well, what I think is kind of interesting is was their decision to have the liquidity deployment on Pharaoh for Ignite. I don't know if you've used that exchange, but it's obviously Trader Joe has like 90, I don't know what percent, but it's like mid 90s or something percent of market share when it comes to volume on AVAX. And they essentially have a monopoly on both TVL, like the liquidity which is housed on the DEX itself, and the fees they generate, the volume they generate. But Pharaoh has like some cool stuff with it. They have a sort of like emissions flywheel, sort of like bit of a like sort of farming Ponzi type thing. Um, so like it's a risk bet that like partnering with a small upstart, maybe they can sort of like work together and get some market share in the ecosystem if it does take off. So like I don't know, it's a dark horse bet, but I think it's interesting.
I need AVAX ecosystem to catch bid immediately.
I would appreciate that as well. That'd be nice.
It feels like the foundation's been silent for the past like
It is.
month
It's
to
it's
two.
like fucking eerie, dude. It's
Like
weird.
completely silent. And then you add some of these people, and I get that, I saw some tweets kind of describing it, but you had people that were employees, maybe like, smaller niche employees that walked off and have left. And it just, like the combination of everything, it's like, I hope it's, selfishly the calm before the storm and they've got something big they're cooking, but, it doesn't instill a, what are you doing, man? Like, what's the game plan here?
On the other hand,
Um,
I remember having a similar conversation about this. I think they did a staff culling in like October, like where a bunch of people got fired, and that was right before the AVAX ecosystem pump. So there is that. I don't know. Maybe that's just cope. Um, I don't know. Just a data point worth considering. I don't know, but I've been seeing people talking about like these firings, but I actually don't know anything about that. What's
well, yeah, I only brought that up because, again, okay, I don't think that it was anybody that was necessarily like substantial, super high up, whether it was firing or people just quitting and walking away, right? Like, I don't think that it was anybody super high up that was like a notable name, but still, one way or the other, I mean, at a time where there's an eerie silence, little things like that can grow into big rumors, which can somehow self manifest themselves into something bigger sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know,
and when it comes to sort of, I mean, I don't know if you would say the ecosystem isn't crisis or not, but when it comes to sort of like PR or like crisis management or public relations, really, like saying
I don't think
nothing
it,
and going dark is not like great
but
policy.
I don't think it's too terrible yet, right? Like, it's not one. It's just still kind of a little bit of a limbo status, and like,
What was weird to me was the fact that like the meme coin rush ended and was just like limbo for like 4 days, like where there were no updates as to what was going on. It's like, yo, this program had been around for months now, so like, wh- this deadline has existed. Like, I don't know, just a few. The thing, like, I don't really care about it, except that it just makes me wonder, like, about decision making and like how organized it is, because like that's like how do you fuck that up, honestly?
Fuck meme coin rush. All my homies hate meme coin rush.
yeah, man. I mean, I think what it really came down to for that was, like active participation versus passive, right? Like, and that's where you notice a real pivot in the ecosystem too, was incentivizing like staking versus them, actively participating. So it, I don't know, man. I personally
I
think that
honestly,
I hope.
I think that I've heard people making that argument. I think that's overblown. I think like meme coin rush was like an excuse and something people could blame, like dumping their stack. It was like it's just like a liquidity event. Like I don't think like it could have
Honestly,
been
my
something
gut
else.
instinct was to dump. As soon as they announced meme coin staking, my gut instinct was to dump. I didn't. Unfortunately, I did not. But yeah, that 100% was my gut instinct.
Oh man, but on that same note, interested to see how things turn out here in the next couple of weeks with like, the arena side of things, how they're going to incentivize that as far as the tokenomics, because they still haven't really released the tokenomics side of things publicly yet.
Not at all. Well, just sorry, I don't
So
want to harp on this. Just the last thing I wanted to say is like if you look at AVAX price action over the past like 2 months, like I don't think there's any sort of confluence of events which would have made meme coins outperform during this period, because like it's the gas token has been just like getting crushed.
what I really think it comes down to still is just like, yeah, something for the underlying token. You just need a pivot as far as, basically since mid March. And like, can you blame AVAX and the entire market being down since mid March? No, like, you can't blame that on AVAX. Like, the entire market, as far as just a bunch of alts, have been bleeding out since then, right? So I think it was just one of those things, how it kind of aligned, it just,
I think
it's part.
my sort of understanding of the problem, and I'll stop talking because I know Pythonomics is like he has more right than anyone to speak on the subject. But like the issue is that markets are based on they're based on confidence and they're based on game theory and the understanding that like playing the game and playing the game sort of like or not cooperating, but like if you think about game theory, the prisoner's dilemma, like not collaborating, like you want that to be the optimal strategy. That's like what they're trying to incentivize with staking. But like just when these initiatives pop off and then the result of them is that the people who go do the good strategy, quote unquote, like do the thing they're supposed to do, end up getting wrecked. You're like you're teaching your own users to defect. You're teaching your own users to dump and cheat, and like that ends up being a sort of cycle that repeats itself and is self-reinforcing, because if you don't do that, you end up losing. That's like the learned experience of the ecosystem's participants. Anyway, Pi, what's up?
Yo, yeah. Fuck meme coin rush. All my homies hate meme coin rush.